Hey, and a very warm welcome to the Into the LightWeb podcast with me, your hostess, Joanna Hunter, metaphysical teacher, spiritual life and business coach, published author, and the high priestess of the LightWeb, a spiritual technology that will change your life. This is the place to be to talk everything under the LightWeb, from consciousness, relationships, to money, to spiritual business, and everything in between. Hey, and a warm welcome to the Into the LightWeb podcast with me, your hostess, Joanna Hunter. And I am super excited for another Client Stories episode. And today I am joined by the fabulous, the one and only Nadine. Come and say hi, Nadine, and introduce yourself and tell everybody on the Into the LightWeb podcast what it is that you do in the world.
Hi, everybody. Joanna, it's such a pleasure to be here. I'm Nadine Benjamin, MBE. I'm a professional opera singer, and I'm also a self-leadership coach and mentor.
I love that. I love that. Tell us a little bit about how you found us when you first came into our world.
Oh my gosh, I just remember, you know what I love about you is in the energy of the world, there's this thing about being excited. So I felt invited into the space, and the subject matters that you were talking about, I'm into esoteric. I'm actually studying that line of thought as well. But there was something about the way that you explained it that just made it easier for me to bring into my everyday life. And
Oh,
that was from that moment, I was hooked, basically.
I love that. I love that. That's been I definitely feel like that's been a big soul mission for me, is to make these very kind of like woo concepts, like everyday boots on the ground. How do we implement this into our daily lives?
Yes.
So we've been on a bit of a journey together. So you joined us around about the $1 million experiment, the first one.
Yes, I did. And I loved it. I loved the idea of somebody saying to us, well, come on, it's yours, take it. And this is how, here's some ideas for doing it. Are you going to join in? It was, again, what I love. See, there we go, this invitation that we keep getting. And I did the $1 million experiment. And actually, for me, what it did was really change my mindset, my thinking, my relationship to money. And actually, it really made me own some of the patterns and paradigms that I've been holding on to unbeknowingly to me. And it the $1 million experiment not made me, but allowed me to let them go and give them up.
Oh, amazing, amazing. I know it's so mind-blowing, isn't it? When you standing there holding that pound, that dollar, or that euro, and you realize you're 20 steps away from becoming a millionaire. Like, I think that was the moment for me where I was like, is that all it is? You know, and realizing, yes, it is possible for everybody. I love that it's changed your relationship with money, and it's changed your relationship probably with energy, right? As well.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about your work, because one of the things that I love about you is you are definitely what I would classify as what society often labels us as a too much woman, right? A woman that literally, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but society quite often does, right? It's you are an opera singer, you are a coach, you are multi-passionate, and I love that about you, because that is who my world, the ladies in my world, are multi-passionate women. And I think you do it so beautifully. I know that some days it's probably tricky balancing it all, but you seem to do it with such effortless ease. So tell us a little bit about being an opera singer, and we're not talking chicken nugget opera singer here. We're talking proper on the big stages opera singer, and then a coach as well. So tell us a little bit about how that looks.
Well, I think that's one of the things that you also really helped me with. Because I came into the opera world and everybody would kind of say to me, you've just got to focus on opera. And then I'd be missing my coaching and then be going, oh my God, but I really want to coach. And then I'd put them together and I'd think, oh no, I have to choose, so that for me has been quite a journey. I mean, I started off with NLP, that's where I started. And that kind of brought me into a world of, oh my gosh, anything is really possible. And then I trained as a certified high performance coach and then a physical intelligence coach. But I could never really get them off the ground. I was like, why aren't I, why does it not focus or function for me in the way it works for me? But
Mhm.
how can I share it with others? Because I like it works. It
Mhm.
really, I
It
mean, my
does.
life,
It really does work.
yeah, it's been such an evolvement. And I realized because, and you spoke about this before, Joanna, about having two directions going on at the same time.
Yeah.
And so when two directions are going up the same, one's always pulling on the other. And actually, what happened for me, in the works, some of the work that I did with you and with others, was this thing about harmonizing, actually
Mhm.
my center. And my center includes both things. I
Yeah.
don't have to be like everyone else. That somebody else's reflection of doing one thing means totally different thing to my one thing. My one thing is about integrating those worlds because actually I need one to do the other. So I
Mhm.
will. I'm currently in Australia at the moment, singing Tosca with Opera Australia, and so I will be here and being in rehearsals 12 hours a day. And but on Sundays, I specifically use that as a coaching day because that's the day that I can be completely reliable. I love being able to have groups on a Sunday where we speak about high performance and leadership, and it's a curriculum-based model that I use. But my intuition comes into that because of my experience, because of who I've become. I'm able to elevate. You talk about that a lot as well. What's our unique sense of self? And because I'm really intuitive, because I mean, I think I've been a coach now for like 24 years.
Mhm.
It's a long
Amazing.
time.
Amazing. It
It's a
is a
long
long time. And it's
time.
beautiful that dedication to that craft as well. And I love that you've not had to like give up your other love, which is opera. And if you stick coaching and opera together, okay, you would immediately think maybe opera coach, right?
Yeah, yeah, no,
But the
no,
high performance coaching and opera, and then you would never think those two would live together or happily. I felt exactly the same way with spirituality and business because I adored business and then I adored spirituality. And I was just like, what am I supposed to do with these two? And then realizing that there is a way to amalgamate even the most random of passions together to make them work. And the fact is you are the living embodiment of the amalgamation, right? It is both, it's all you and it's all part of you. And I love that you do this high performance coaching and you find a way that works for you with that curriculum base and doing that group coaching calls and things like that as well. I think that's another thing as well as being brave because I think a lot of people when they think coaching, they feel immediately it's all just one to one.
Yeah, no, not at
And we
all.
don't need to build a coaching business that way. So many different ways to build it. Tell us
Yeah,
about doing Tosca in in true multi-passionate fashion. Let's talk about singing. Let's talk about doing Tosca in Australia because that's an amazing role that you've got.
it's a fantastic role. It's Puccini, it's big singing.
Hmm.
Um, and Opera Australia is one of the third top companies in the world, you know. And so there's a lot of high pressure. There's a lot of high performance. So this is how I realized that these two worlds interlinked. There's a lot of high performance. So everything I teach in my coaching, I'm having now to walk my talk and do here. So my day would start with meditation and writing and getting myself into my body, physical movement, getting the oxygen into my blood, so maybe 30 minutes of body strength and then some swimming. And then I've got to warm up my voice. So my voice recognizes that I'm going to lean on it to give it something, so my voice and my body have to join together. And then it's the preparation of what am I going to eat during the day, because I have to prepare that now before I leave the house. Because if I don't, then my energy will drop. And because this show is so physical, I need to be alive all the time. So looking after myself, that self-care is
Yeah.
absolutely top of the list. Hydration, making sure I'm completely hydrated. And this is all before I've even got to the book of, the language, and making sure I remembered all the words, and making sure all the tunes are in place, and making sure that I've listened with the orchestra enough, and then acting with my colleagues on stage, and then making sure everyone's happy, and then getting into costume and hair and wigs and makeup. I mean, it's such a vast machine. It's such a vast, magical world, actually, when I think about it, but it needs this level of discipline, in order for it to be a miracle in life.
I love that you brought up discipline because it's it's a subject that makes quite a lot of people go, oh God, but is so essential at the same time. And it doesn't have to be an oh God situation. I find through discipline, I have gotten some of my best results. The discipline of being consistent, for instance, in my marketing, the discipline of
You are
showing
fab at
up
that, by the
consistently.
way.
Oh,
You're
thank you.
master of that. Master, mistress, whatever you need to be called. You are amazing at that. Everybody needs to learn from you around that.
Oh,
Sorry.
I love that. Thank you. Tell us a little bit about, mastering the discipline of it, because I have my own ideas on what it's taken for me to master it, but I'd love to hear your kind of take on it, because obviously you're in this huge role. As you can hear from Nadine's voice, she is not native to Australia. So it's you are UK
Yes.
lady, and so London normally is where you hang your hat normally. So you're in a foreign country, there's a lot going on, right? But what is
Yes.
the discipline, or what is the motivation for you behind that discipline?
Is to make sure that the audience get the best of me, to tell Tosca's story in the best way that I possibly can. I mean, you know, you spoke earlier about spirituality in business. Whether we like it or not, music, the opera world is a business also, and delivering really good shows, and making sure people get the best of this music is really, really important. And when we talk about discipline, I often think of disciple, because that's, discipline, disciple. I often think of that word.
Oh, I love that.
And I feel like I'm in an anointing when I start to sing. I've always felt that my voice is here to heal. As soon as I open my mouth, I recognize that it's not about me, it's about the person in front of me. If I can touch that heart, if I can allow someone an emotion that they don't normally get to have, if they can cry with me and laugh with me, if they can sort something out in their head by watching the way I'm solving something on stage, I think that for me is like a true divine calling. And all those things that I do beforehand, before I get on stage, allows that to happen in that moment. And it is only a moment, it's live performance. We're never going to get that moment back again. That moment is between us and them. It's just, and it's an exchange of energy. It's not me throwing something at them and somebody having to receive it. And, but actually it's this energy that's always coming back and forth all the time. And we're feeding off each other all the time. And the healing is happening as like a vast vacuum almost.
I love that. I love that. It's like a transcendent experience,
Absolutely.
and
Yeah.
it really transcends. I think, music is so underestimated within the world in a way of its capacity to heal. Or I always remember, I think it's in the movie Love Actually, and they're talking about an artist. Now I can't remember the artist that they talk about, but I remember saying, what I think it's Emma Thompson says something, it made my unfeeling English heart feel.
Oh, yeah.
And it was, and put the names to the emotions that I couldn't even name within me, and I can't remember, I'm probably butchering this idea, but I just remember this movie having a sort of kind of quote in it of music being able to transcend something that we weren't able to maybe put into words ourselves. And I think that is the power of music, and it is tremendously healing. And also as well, I mean, that's before we even get into the juiciness of frequency and things like that as well, which is
Oh my God, that's a whole other dynamism, isn't it, really? Um,
absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely. It's
hence
incredible.
making, hence making time for meditation. Meditation's so important because the frequency that I dial into allows me to become a vessel when I'm there.
Oh my goodness, I love that. And that's what it is. And even, we were talking just before this episode, we were talking a little bit about even coaching. And, when you're coaching, you're also dialing into that space
Yeah.
as well, and using your intuition, which, I mean, coaching is all about my intuition, although a lot of people look at coaching as like, no, no, I've learned this method and I do it in this way. For me, it's looking at my coaching tools as my toolbox and then intuitively using which tool for the right client. Tell us
Oh,
a
yes,
little
yes,
bit.
yes, 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 yes.
Tell us a little bit about your intuitive toolbox when it comes to coaching and being in there. And of course, you've already mentioned NLP. So if anybody's brand new to that kind of language, it stands for neuro linguistic
Mm.
programming. But that's just one of your tools. You've got quite a few tools in that toolbox.
I have got quite a few tools in that toolbox. But I think, I really loved what you just said, Joanna. It's the thing that as a coach that I'm listening for and listening for the most is the unsaid. That's what I'm
Yeah.
listening for the most is the unsaid, because I'm using powerful questions to elicit answers and to make people think and to facilitate a space. But actually, I'm always going to go after the thing that's unsaid, the thing that makes that person feel really uncomfortable, or the thing that they've been burying like an undiscovered dream. And it's just sitting there under the hatchet, and they've always wanted to say it, but you see it in there and you go after it, and then you expand this thing, and then you come back to the structure. That's how I work anyway. And I think that has been one of the most amazing ways to see people grow, expand, and to have this new faith in themselves and this new sense of empowerment. I think one of the reasons why I kind of walked into self-leadership, because I always felt like I wished to teach leadership, but I was like, what's the best way I can do? And then I just looked at my own life, again with your help as well. You know, how have I walked to myself? You always say, like, don't lie to yourself, be really, really authentic. And every time that I came back into this position, I was like, well, actually, a lot of what I've done has come from self-leadership. But that self-leadership, it has helped me to work with others, collaborate with others, um, manage others, facilitate, play with others, grow with others, but understanding that the root has to come from me, that flower, that tree has to be grown from me, has been one of the greatest kind of alignments I've had around leadership that I've been able to pass on to everybody else.
I love that, because there is no leadership without self-leadership first. Lack of self-leadership, you are a weak leader. And that's not being unkind. That is just truth bombs. And, you know, but self-leadership is so important. And I can tell you, I love that you've said it's one of the things that you have gotten the most from, because, you know, and for me, I look at the success that I've had in my own business, and I look at, you know, that moment that I crossed the $1 million for a year revenue, and realizing that I led myself there.
Yeah.
I led myself there. And
Yeah.
anybody that has done that, and anybody that achieves those goals, they have led themselves there. And it is so powerful, because it is that self-leadership aspect. And there, you know, without, you know, and if you're looking to become a leader of others and leading others, then there is no leadership unless there's self-leadership. Um, and I love that it's been a kind of, because I think when that clicks, it's like, you know, a secret that other people don't know.
Yeah. Yes, it's true. And I think that's one of the brilliant things about the $1 million experiment, is because I looked at it, this is my journey. So everybody's going to have a different journey. But I looked at it was, oh my gosh, I'm going to become a millionaire at the beginning. And then as I started doing it, I was like, oh no, I need to clear up all these behaviors around money. I need to clear that before I can even receive anything. I need to do all this clearing. And so so my first year was about clearing, doing it again now. I'm like, now I have to get a bit more systematic and structured. So the next part for me is about being systematic and structured. So I'm waiting for the third year to come already, because I'm like, okay, now I can have it all in.
Oh my goodness. I love that. It is a process, and there is, you know, I remember I think it was Jim Rohn said, you know, success leaves clues.
Yes.
And it's so true, right? It is so true, and it is this process. And I feel, you know, it took me from $0 business
Mm,
to a seven-figure business. It took me 6 years, but
mm,
that's not fair to say that it's 6 years, because I had been in business 17 years prior to that. You know, like I had been in business for a long time prior to that. So that all was kind of like the foundation on which I built that 6 year process.
yeah.
But I think one of the things is from that 6 years was so fundamental in going through what you're going through right now, and what you went through with the $1 million experiment, and realizing, right, there's a lot of debris in front of me first. I got to clear the decks. I got to get rid of all my gnarly thinking, all of the things like rich people are greedy, or, you know, all those choice things that we have about, all those ideas we have about money. I think
Yeah.
one of my biggest lessons around money has been allowing money just to be money, has been a
Yes.
huge lesson for me.
Yeah.
You
Mine
know,
has been that I need to treat money like I treat the most loving relationship I have in my life.
ah,
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah, because that really changed my concept about it. So instead of coming in and, oh my gosh, throwing money on the table, um, I put it in a purse now, and I put it in a Louis Vuitton purse that I bought especially to put it in, because that was going to make me feel special. But the biggest thing that I remember is your experiment with the £20 note.
Mm,
OMG. Because it wasn't then just about the energy, how I saw money, the energy. I was like, oh, but it's also around the energy money has with me.
mm.
And in that moment, I really saw the essence of value. It blew my head apart. I mean, that just took ages, like months to process that. That
So,
was one of the most incredible experiments I've ever seen.
so if anybody's listening to this, I did a thing with a £20 note. So, where basically I ask my audience who wants this 20 quid note, and everyone's like, yes, please. And then I take the same £20 note, and I begin crumpling it, and I begin to smush it and I begin to kind of abuse it a little bit, right? And then I ask afterwards, like, who wants this £20 note? And majority of everyone is usually yes, please, because it hasn't lost its value. And yet we go through and we get a little bit abused by life and we go through so much. And yet we feel like we've lost our value, haven't we? We feel like we're not enough. We feel like that. But, you know, you start as a 20 quid note, you end as a 20 quid note. Like the value is still always there, regardless of what the 20 quid note went through. And how come it can be like that for money and not like that for us? And I think, you know, for me, that was a big eye opener in my journey as well, of understanding my value is not tied to anything else. My value is indisputable. It is always and forever. It is not what I'm doing in the moment or what I'm doing an hour from now and things. I love that you brought that up because that was that was a powerful lesson for me as well, of realizing that my value isn't up for debate. And my value used to be up for debate all the time.
Yes, exactly. And I used to undersell myself, and it's allowed me to put boundaries in place and to, if I do offer, a service for a particular price, it's because I've consciously made the decision, not because I've unconsciously made it, so that it had such a profound effect on me, that did such a massive effect. And, I haven't shared it with other people, but I'm sure I'm sharing it in other ways, without even recognizing it. But you must show people that experiment, because actually watching it, the experience that you'll give to people will be just astounding, especially in this experiment.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a powerful moment to realize that your worth doesn't change.
Yeah.
It doesn't change. It's
Yeah.
our perception of our worth that changes. And that's it, you know. And if we can realize, if we can switch our own perspective to actually, my worth does not change. What I love to say is I've been born worthy and nothing and nothing will change it.
Wow, I love it. Love that. Love that.
Yeah. And it is,
Yeah.
and it's so true. And it's the true for absolutely every single person in this world, regardless of, you know, let's face it, humans do some shady shit, but irregardless of that, you know, our value is not up for debate as a
I
human
think the
being.
biggest thing also that the $1 million experiment showed me as well is, and through the work that I've done, is that when I have money, when people donate money or fund things that I'm doing, so many people are served through that. It
Yes,
becomes 10 times more valuable.
yes,
You know,
yes.
I recognize that I'm actually one of the people that should be given money. I'm one of those people that needs to say hello and receive it, because actually when it's in my sphere, so many more people are serviced and helped and facilitated and cared for and given opportunity.
Amazing.
I never understood that.
Yes, it's like you winning is the world winning, right?
Yes, absolutely.
That's it. It's literally that simple. I used to, because obviously I had a very, very strong spiritual side. One of the things that I like to call in the spiritual world is the spiritual pauper karma, which is this, for me, it's a very ingrained idea. I do believe that it actually has past life origins, of where we have lived maybe lives where we were a nun or a monk or something like that, and we took absolute pious delight in the fact that we lived for nothing. by the grace of others, right? And that we did not sully ourselves with the likes of money. And then here we are, the year is 2024. The training day is complete for Spirit. You have incarnated so many different lives. The training day is complete. Here you are, the year is 2024. And then we're working against or banging against this spiritual purpur karma, afraid to charge for our gifts, afraid to put ourselves out there, afraid of those things. And I see it so much in spiritual, this idea that money is somehow dirty or evil or it's something like that. And I love that you said, Nadine, in my hands, it blesses so many more people. And it's so true, because money at the end of the day is a powerful resource in this world. It opens a lot of doors to a lot of experiences and a lot of things. And so having powerful spiritual leaders, having powerful leaders with money, and I'm not talking the shower that is kind of running the world at the moment. I am talking about women like yourself that really make massive impact through their voice, through their performance, through their high performance coaching, through that. That's the ripple effects that we will see in years to come.
Yeah, yeah. And just keeping it, keeping it really simple and making small changes on a daily basis. We spoke about discipline earlier, and the biggest thing around discipline, I think, is just doing that small action every single day. And that small action needs to be consistent, because I think it was you, wasn't it, that said, the more changes we have, the more compound we have, but they've got to
Yes.
be consistent. They've got to be consistent, because that's where the build up happens, and
The momentum, yes,
and that's where it gets exciting. That's where
exactly.
it's exciting, because you're like, oh, did that really just happen? Oh my God, did I really just receive that? Oh my goodness, did I really just manifest that? Yes, you did.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
You joined us in our Divine Planning Abundant Profits program, and that's where we talk about the compounding effect of those small daily actions, having a compounding effect to build massive momentum. Tell us a
Yes.
little bit of your experience of being in Divine Planning Abundant Profits. What have you found as you kind of walk through, and has it helped you with your business? Has it helped you to get your kind of business head on straight and things like that as well, and showing up for yourself?
I love the community. Yeah, I really love the community. And I love that, because I trust you, because I know that you're consistently there. I know that this is a resource that I can trust. For me, that's really important. And as well as the consistency of the message, when you expand, we expand. You've got this other message that happens around that as well. And you're really honest and willing to share your stories within that. But then I get to hear everybody else's stories and how they're working within that as well. And I think in terms of divine planning, it really helped me to envision and to recognize that I don't like to call it a business, a creative company. But for me, that's what that how it works for me. But yeah, that I was running a creative company, and that within running a creative company comes certain responsibilities. So how can I get myself to a place where I can actually serve my creative company from a responsible place? The only way I could do that was gain knowledge. And I think divine planning has really helped that. And one of the things that I think that's so innovative about it is that people are always going, well, you could do this, and then you could do this, and then maybe you could do this, or maybe that doesn't sound right, take this away, and maybe just deal with that part. I feel like there's lots of clarity that is found within that space, and you're surrounded by like-minded people. So because you're surrounded by like-minded people, the energy, the frequency is higher. you know, and so you're thinking from a higher frequented space rather than what we can all have sometimes is sometimes we wake up, we're on a low energy and we're like, oh my goodness, do I have to, and you have to use the tools to get yourself back there and to do this. But to watch other people do it in their business is wonderful.
Oh, I love that. The community, as you know, I love hard on that community, and I think it's such an important thing. Um, One of the things back in the day, I used to organize these coffee evenings, because I diagnosed a few of my clients with, and this is when I was doing readings and intuitive readings and things, of the fact that they were going through spiritual awakening, but they were so isolated, like nobody was going through spiritual awakening. And I said, your problem isn't that you're going through spiritual awakening. Your problem is that you don't have enough weird friends. And so and to address that, I decided to create these coffee evenings where people could come and meet weird friends and not be so isolated and realize that what they were going through was quite normal. And I feel like in a way that what I've created in Divine Planning Abundant Profits is this place for um creative business owners and business owners that think differently, want to think differently, and it's like weird friends for your business. And I think that, in this world where we are, I feel like we are often placed as spiritual entrepreneurs, we're often placed in communities that are maybe not as spiritual as us, or not as awakened as us, or not, because that's the whole point. You're meant to be the bright light within that, in that world. But
Mm.
what's so nice about Divine Planning Abundant Profits is I've gathered all the bright lights together and created this space where you know that you're not alone fighting the good fight, doing the thing, hanging your shingle out in the world and saying, this is me and I can help you with these things. And
Yeah.
knowing, because your stuff does come up when we start doing that, right? Um, and it
And we
is,
have to Yeah, we have to be open enough to have our own coaches, and I coach, but I also have a coach to make sure that the transference and stuff doesn't actually start happening. I'm always thinking, how can I be at greater service to the people that I'm serving, as I know for definite you do. So it's that thing of again, self-care, and self-care is also community care. you know
yes, yeah.
I think that's really important to keep. But I think, for somebody who's lost or looking for answers, or is in transition, or is at the beginning and, wishes to know steps that they haven't heard of before and wishes to be guided, I think this is a perfect program. Divine Planning Profits is just such a perfect program for them, and also because you make space for people to keep coming back,
Yeah.
so they can drop in, which is
Yeah.
great.
Which
you
I
know
love the fact that we're not one and done, because I don't know about you, but I built my business for the long haul. And I think the majority of people that I serve did not build what I call a wham bam thank you ma'am business, where it's like a little get rich quick scheme. The women in my world tend to build businesses that are here to make huge impact and huge ripples in the world. And they're long haul businesses. They're not, a little short term flash in the pan, jumping on the latest trend. That's not what we're here for. We're here for that sustainable change, that change that's going to walk with people in years. And yeah, it's very important to me to create a space where you can go off out and see what else the world has to offer, but you always know you've got a hub to come back to. You always know that there's a teacher's lounge for spiritual teachers to come back to.
and it's so important to have a spiritual space, especially when we're talking about business, that
Mhm.
there's a spiritual space around that, because I feel that when we're in um like what I would call a normal business, we
Mhm.
got this oh gosh, competition. I couldn't even say
Yeah.
it then. You've got, this competitiveness, see, I couldn't even
Yeah.
say it. But when we're in a spiritual space where business is allowed to function and just be, we're into it, we're in constant creativity. And I think competitiveness is really limited and creativity is really limitless. So, and I find that just such an abundant space to be in all the time. So I never feel stunted or, you know, compressed. I always feel like there's somewhere to grow, and there's new things to look at and there's new places to discover. It's a great program. It's wonderful.
Thank you. I really appreciate that because, as you know, I poured a lot of love in there. Tell us what your plans are, because obviously right now we are in Australia doing Tosca, right?
Yeah.
So what is next? What have you been working on and dreaming in your coaching business, or what's the next sort of exciting unfoldments happening in your world, or are we just like a leaf on a river at the moment?
Well, I mean, I would say honestly and authentically and full transparency that I'm in a transition at the moment. I feel that I've had a year where I've lost quite a few people and two really close people to me, and one very recently. And we talk about a spiritual experience. I took them right up until their death. So, we talk about it changed me on such a molecular level. So I'm now consistently asking myself the question is, where does my leadership go now? What is that about? Does it become more ministerial? Does it become more speakery? Does it become more? It's just a question that's constantly evolving. But I do know that I'd like to work with more one-to-one clients. I think for me, I'm somebody that works with people over 35 to retirement. That's my kind of group that I love to work with. People who are in creative corporate positions or creativity positions. And just stand in that space and attract that abundance and inspire people to just take this leap of faith into self-leadership and to recognize that they're not alone and that anything is possible and that their dreams are possible, their leadership is possible, and leadership isn't just about leading 1,000 people. It can just simply be about leading yourself to your own dreams, to your own discoveries. And then singing wise, I come back to the UK and I'll be singing Ernani with Buxton International Festival, and then I'll be going back to English National Opera to sing Mimi in La Bohème, and then I'll be doing a job at Glyndebourne as well. So there's a lot of singing still happening. So it's that thing of that ever constant harmony between these worlds and just making sure that they just keep rocking together. But yeah, as you can hear, who knows is all I
I
can say.
love that.
I'm really open I'm in a space right now where I can divinely say that I'm just open to receiving. I'm not afraid to receive right now. And, in terms of the $1 million experiment, for me, it's all about finding structures and systems that actually work for me. One of the things that people don't talk about when it comes to money is people like myself who are really neurodiverse. I'm severely dyspraxic. So some of the ways that things are explained are not the ways that I understand it. Some of the words that I use are not going to be the way somebody else uses those words. It affects my executive functions. So I'm having to find new ways of creating systems that actually work just for me. I can share my experience of them with other people, but actually right now that's my self-leadership. And when I've got those structures in place around finances, I feel then that I'll be entering a different world. And I'm really excited about that.
I love that. I love that. So, last year my youngest daughter was diagnosed with autism, but going through her forms for getting that diagnosis, we realized our entire family was neurodiverse.
Yeah.
And so I have ADHD, and And I totally resonate with having learning systems that work just for you.
Mm.
You know, for me, you know, one of divine planning abundant profits is my system. I don't like routine. I'm not a
Yeah.
fan of routine, and yet I need routine to create consistent results. And so, in a way, divine planning abundant profits is literally just a routine, you know, it's my routine, but it's loose enough for me to still be creative and still have fun and still, but it's robust enough for me still to get those results. And it was really kind of finding ways that work for me and my brain. And I love that you are seeing your self leadership as I have to find the things that work for me. And that's one of the, I really, really love that because, you know, that's what business is all about. It's not about looking to somebody who's doing really, really well and being like, well, let me see if I can cookie cutter their way of doing it. But their way of doing it may necessarily not work for you. They might be able to give you clues, they might be able to illuminate certain parts of the path, but it is that self-leadership piece to get a
Mm.
business that fits you like an absolute glove.
Yeah.
And that's what's so juicy. And I love that you're on that path now and finding the systems that are your jam, not necessarily, you know, this is because this is the industry standard or this is what everyone's using. No, what are the systems I need?
Yeah, exactly. How do I make them work for myself? You know, because I've spent a lot of time in, not now, but before, where I used to think that other people knew more than me. And actually, I know me better than anyone knows me.
Mhm.
And the more I can elicit from myself in terms of influence myself, which means to be in flow of oneself, then I'm commanding a space for myself that I understand. And then I can share with others of how to understand me better as well, especially when you're working with people.
Mm.
I now have a like a disability document that I send to people who I work with in singing, so they know how to work with me, and then I invite them to teach me how to work with them. So then we're all starting from the same place, which means we build, we continuously build and make magic in music and in the shows that we do, because we're both starting from the same place. So yeah, and we discover new ways of working with each other, obviously, when we start working together, because things change as well. But I think it's really important not to be afraid to share your any disabilities or neurodiversities that you have with the people that you work with, because at the end of the day, it's my superpower.
I feel that too about me as well. I know that I know my multi-passionate comes from my ADHD, absolutely 100%, you know. But it's also as well that the fact that I learned to leverage and balance those multi-passions as well, which I think, you know, not everybody is fortunate enough to get to the place where they learn to balance them all, but this is something I think is so vital, and hearing your story of how coming into my world has helped you balance two very different passions and make them work. And it, you know, it's so beautiful to see because it feels so, as we're having this conversation, it's just felt so effortless as you switch between the two. And now in my mind, as we get to the end of this conversation, and I'm like, of course these two go together.
Yeah, yeah. Well, they do, because yeah, they magically transcend, both of them. One's transcending others and one's transcending myself with others. And, and also it's always to remember that coaching, being on a stage, as I said before, is always an exchange. Every time we coach someone, every time we have someone in front of us, they're teaching us as much as we're teaching them.
Yeah.
You know, they're helping us expand just as much as we're helping them expand. It's really is again an exchange of energy that is just being invited into the space. I mean, I love what I do. Totally, totally love
You can
what I do.
tell it's beautiful and it's just absolutely infectious.
Mm.
Nadine, we could probably talk forever and a day, but we need to bring our podcast to a close, but can you tell people, if they've enjoyed this conversation, where can they find you musically, and where can they find you for high performance coaching? Where are the places to look for you?
Like, well, as I've just said, you can find them in the same place.
Yay.
Nadine Benjamin, www.nadinebenjamin.com, and Nadine Benjamin on as a website, and Nadine Benjamin Soprano on Instagram.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you so much for coming into the studio today and sharing your journey.
It was such an honor. Thank you so much, Joanna.